Now, if you're a subscriber, current subscriber, welcome back and thank you again for tuning in today. If you are someone that is tuning in for the first time, my name is Troyson Bassini. I am the owner and head of research of Life Buyers Agency. So we are a regional Queensland buyers agent specialist, and we service the Central Queensland and North Queensland property markets under these two brands here. So up in North Queensland, we've got Tropical Life servicing Cairns, Townsville, and the broader region there. And then we've got Capricorn Life servicing the Central Queensland basin from Rockhampton to Bundaberg and everywhere in between there as well, Gladstone and Mackay included. And what we do is we generally help a lot of investors and geographically challenged buyers navigate these markets. We're on the ground, we provide buyers advocacy services, purchase, negotiation, acquisition, and pre and post settlement support for anyone looking at potentially buying in any of these locations. We've done more than $250 million worth of transactions in these regions. 70% of our purchases are off market, and I like to say, as a result of buying off market, a lot of our properties are also bought in isolation of competition and under market value as well. So if you feel as though you are an investor that might need potential professional help getting into these markets, feel free to reach out to us on those websites below or give us a call on that number and we can connect you up with myself or one of my team members for a chat around how we might be able to potentially get you into the market and buy you a cracking investment. Right, moving further north, Townsville. Good old Townsville, Brownsville, home of the North Queensland Cowboys. Yeah, I was pretty gutted being a Cowboys supporter that they bowed out of the 2024 Premiership race to the Cronulla Sharks. Yeah, pretty gutted about that, but that's a conversation for another day. Townsville, look, guys, it's been a very, very hot, big hotspot right now for investors, buyers, agents. Yeah, it's been one that's made a lot of noise, made a lot of headlines, and I think it's caught a lot of people's attention. And I think a lot of people might be tuning into this video today wanting to get some insight about Townsville as well to see if that it's good for them to potentially buy right now. So I'm gonna run through Townsville now for you guys as well. But look, I know Townsville's having a really good run right now, but how I've always looked at Townsville having this run right now, I'm not calling it a boom. I'm more calling it a correction. I think Townsville has just underperformed so much for the last decade that I think it's just a market now correcting itself to where it should be, and then I think after this correction, it's going to go on another boom. So if you can get it now while it's correcting itself to where I think it should be, you're going to make money, and then after it corrects itself, it's going to continue to surge along, and I think there's plenty of upside in Townsville, and that's why I've been very bullish on Townsville because one, I think it's a correction, and then two, after the correction, I think there's more growth in the marketplace as well. And the reason why I call it a correction is because it's been underperformed for so long. Its median house price was only a couple of years ago around that $400,000 when it should have been around $600 by then at that point in time, but it just hadn't really got there, and there's not a lot that's been happening in that immediate market to cause that to happen. And now I think it's just had such a huge and accelerated correction where it's almost there around that 600,000. I think then from there going forward, I think between 600 to 800 is where it could also get the median house price, I believe, over the next sort of 3 years in Townsville. So we can see here that the median house price is $536,000 right now. And year-to-date median house price has grown by 12.8% in Townsville from 481,000 to 536,000, so a total of $57,000 in capital growth as well. So double-digit growth, similar to Rocky and Mackay. Townsville's also appear to be surging along. And look, as I said, I think that median house price is more of it's corrected median house price, so it's correcting itself to where I think it should be around that $600,000. So I think even in the short term, I think this median house price still has a lot of wiggle room to push up to around that 620, I believe, because Cairns down the road is already there, and Townsville's like the bigger capital city than Cairns, right? It has an extra 40, 50,000 people. So it naturally should be, the biggest and most expensive regional hub in terms of its median house price. So I think, yeah, that median house price in the short term has a lot of wiggle room in it to push up. All of the blue chip areas of Townsville, like the Kerwins, the Mount Louises, the Douglas, the Dahlias, Annandales, majority of their stock now is all sort of in the low 600, mid 600. So it's probably hard to get anything with a decent yield around the blue chip areas. But in saying that, I think there's still plenty of other opportunity outside some of the blue chip areas in Townsville where you can still potentially get in at a much more lower purchase price. Because one of the things that I'm finding with Townsville is the prices have accelerated so much in such a short period of time that the rental market hasn't been able to keep up. So the yields aren't as great right now. So you might be getting a property for $550, but it might only be renting currently right now for $470 per week with an existing tenant in there with an existing lease. So it doesn't make that yield any good. I'm finding majority of the properties that have an existing tenant in there, the yields are around sort of low fives, and then stuff that you get vacant and you can get a tenant in paying current market rent are around that sort of mid five, so around 5.5%. Very hard to get 6% yield in Townsville right now, just with the rental market haven't pushed up as much as places like Townsville, Mackay, Bundaberg, where you're getting really premium rents. I think around 600 to 650 is the top end of the market right now. In Townsville, where I think Townsville should be the top end of the market should be $750, $800 for median rents per week. So yeah, I still think there's other opportunity in Townsville to buy in some of the bridesmaid suburbs where you can get in at a much lower purchase price and get a much more juicier rental yield relative to that purchase price. We just put one under contract in a suburb called Durigan for $520. That was a 1 acre block. We could subdivide that into 4 lots. And that's kind of around that sort of mid 5% yield as well. So there are still a lot of good opportunities around towns, but you have to, I think, move into some of the older established areas where the entry price is a lot more affordable. So places like Durigan, I think it has good value. Places like Woogaroo, parts of Condon, parts of Kelso, I think offer some scope there as well. And then obviously some of the older established areas of around Aiken Vale, Heatley, Cranebrook, I think have some good value for money also. So yeah, guys, looking at all the data now for Townsville, like days on market, sitting at 24 days. That's dropped 35% from 37 in January. So 24 down from 37. Just goes to show the demand has really ramped up here in Townsville over the course of this year. So demand is really, really strong. And then as you can see here, stock levels have really started to contract now as well, sitting at 0.3% and inventory sitting at 3 weeks. So stock levels and inventory levels very tight here as well. Almost on par with Mackay and Rocky. Not as tight, but still for a city the size of Townsville to have 0.3% and 3 weeks worth of inventory is crazy, right? Because Townsville has over 200,000 people in terms of its population, a lot bigger than Rocky, a lot bigger than Bundy, a lot bigger than Mackay. So those stock levels relative to the population base is very, very tight, guys. So that's a good thing for Townsville. And as I said at the start of the presentation, the average, for inventory levels, like across the country is generally around, for a balanced market, not a hot market, is around 3 months. But you have places like Townsville that are sitting at 3 weeks. So there is opportunity here to make money potentially as an investor still with the data showing signs like this. So days on market, demand looking good, supply looking very low. So demand strong, supply low. You can see that the listing volumes have decreased as well over this period by 2.5% from 276 down to 269. So not a massive variation there in the listing volume or decrease. I think Townsville, a couple of years ago, the listing volume was sitting around 300, 400 a month, and now it's really tapered down to averaging around that sort of 250 to 280 per month now. So it's kind of rolling around that. I think in the next 1.5 years, we'll start to see the listing volume drop, I think, below 200, I would say, in the next 6 to 8 months. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a 1 like around that sort of 190, 180 as less and less supply comes to the market going forward. One thing about Townsville though, and that's probably one of the upsides about Townsville, that it does have upside in terms of like providing supply to the market for people that need it, but probably not necessarily a good upside for investors, is that there is still a lot of new supply, coming to the market in and around Townsville as well. So a lot of new house and land packages still happening. So I think the market will still be injected with a little bit of new supply going forward. Is that enough to sort of, oversaturate the market? I don't think so. I think there'll still be a massive imbalance there between the two, but Townsville does have a pipeline of new supply in places like Birdell, in Bowley Plains, Bushland Beach. They're pumping out, about a property every 6 weeks, is from what I've been told. There's a property being pumped out every 6 weeks at scale in a lot of these places. So yeah, guys, that looks good. Rental market data. We can see here that the rents have increased by 5.5% from 590 to 517 per week. So that's a good thing for Townsville. As I said, the rents have been pretty lazy in Townsville. We've had an accelerated price growth in terms of its median house price, and rents haven't necessarily caught up as much, but we're starting to really see rental growth happening now as well. And I think what's going to really surge this rental market a lot higher in the short term is there's going to be a flurry of new people coming in now to join the Defence Force as well. I think there's about 400 new Defence Force personnel coming to the Army Barrack base in Townsville in December. So there's a whole new brigade starting, and that's obviously going to, those people are obviously going to flood into the local rental market, and I think that's going to certainly send the market into a bit of a frenzy there as well. And rents are going to really start to spike a lot, I believe, in Townsville. And when you have these guys coming in that work for the government, majority of their rents are subsidised as well. So I could see rents, reaching as high as $800 per week in Townsville over the next 12 months. I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening at all. So I think in the short term, the rental yields aren't as juicy. It's very hard to get sort of above 6%, but I think if you can ride it out for the next 12 months, I think the rental market is really starting to start to ramp up, and you're going to be getting a minimum of 6% yield 12 months time from now. And you can see here now that vacancy rates, has contracted as well from 1.6% down to 1.2%. So since January, there's been a total of 43 less listings. So yeah, rental market is really starting to get tighter and tighter. I think as that starts to happen more, that's going to push up that median rent overall in Townsville. As I said, when a lot of the Army personnel are going to be inbound, I think that's going to just send the market crazy, and it's going to be very, very good time for investors, and probably not necessarily a good time if you're looking to invest in somewhere like Townsville. So yeah, guys, look, Townsville looking very good. As I said, it's been a popular, hotspot. I see this market as more of a correction than anything. I still think that median house price has a lot of wiggle room to push up to sort of 650, I believe, in the short term. I still see a lot of good value in the older established suburbs in Townsville between the price points of 450 to 550. Very hard to get into blue chip as well. And yeah, all the point in time data looks good as well. Supply is low, demand is very high.